List of numbered streets in Manhattan. The New York City borough of Manhattan contains 214 numbered east-west streets ranging from 1st to 228th, the majority of them designated in the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. These streets do not run exactly east-west because the grid plan is aligned with the Hudson River rather than with the cardinal directions. Thus, the majority of the Manhattan grid's west is approximately 29 degrees north of true west. The angle differs above 155th Street, where the grid initially ended. The grid now covers the length of the island from 14th Street north. All numbered streets carry an east or west prefix, for example, East 10th Street or West 10th Street, which is demarcated at Broadway below 8th Street, and at 5th Avenue at 8th Street and above. The numbered streets carry crosstown traffic. In general, but with numerous exceptions, even numbered streets are one-way eastbound and odd-numbered streets are one-way westbound. Most wider streets, and a few of the narrow ones, carry two-way traffic. Although the numbered streets begin just north of East Houston Street in the East Village, they generally do not extend west into Greenwich Village, which already had established named streets when the grid plan was laid out by the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. Some streets in that area that do continue farther west change direction before reaching the Hudson River. The highest numbered street on Manhattan Island is 220th Street, but Marble Hill is also within the borough of Manhattan, so the highest street number in the borough is 228th Street. The numbering system continues in the Bronx, up to 263rd Street, though east of Van Cortlandt Park the system ends at 243rd Street. The lowest numbered street in Manhattan is East 1st Street, which runs through Alphabet City near East Houston Street. There is also a first place in Battery Park City. Details. 1st to 7th Streets. East 1st Street begins just north of East Houston Street at Avenue and continues to the Bowery. Peretz Square, a small triangular sliver park where Houston Street, 1st Street and 1st Avenue meet, marks the spot where the grid takes hold. East 2nd Street begins just north of East Houston Street at Avenue C and also continues to the Bowery. The east end of East 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th Streets is Avenue D, with East 6th Street continuing further eastward and connecting to FDR Drive. The west ends of most of these streets is the Bowery and 3rd Avenue, except for 3rd Street, formerly Amity Place, which continues to 6th Avenue, and 4th Street, which extends west and then north to 13th Street in Greenwich Village. Great Jones Street connects East 3rd to West 3rd. East 5th Street goes west to Cooper Square, but is interrupted between Avenues B and C by the Earth School and Public School 364, and between 1st Avenue and Avenue by the Village View Apartments. East 6th Street contains many Indian restaurants between 1st and 2nd Avenues and is known as Curry Row. Lengths of streets. 8th and 9th Streets. 8th and 9th Streets run parallel to each other, beginning at Avenue D, interrupted by Tompkins Square Park at Avenue B, resuming at Avenue A and continuing to 6th Avenue. West 8th Street is an important local shopping street. 8th Street between Avenue A and 3rd Avenue is called St. Mark's Place, but it is counted in the length below. Make bus route operates eastbound on 8th Street and westbound on 9th Street between Avenue and 6th Avenue. 8th Street has one subway station, 8th Street New York University by the NR&W trains. And late nights and weekends are all times except late nights, and W all times except late nights and weekends. Lengths of streets. 10th to 13th Streets. Amos Hammond and Troy Streets were in the Greenwich Village Street grid before 1811. In the middle 19th century, they were renamed as the western parts of West 10th, 11th, and 12th Streets, respectively. 10th Street 40.7 million, 342,580 and 74.29 thousand, 607 W/40.7 million, 342,000. Because West 4th Street turns northward at 6th Avenue, it intersects 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Streets in the West Village. The MATE bus operates on 10th Street in both directions between Avenue D and Avenue A, and eastbound between West Street and 6th Avenue. 10th Street has an eastbound bike lane from West Street to the East River. In 2009, the two-way section of 10th Street between Avenue and the East River had bicycle markings and sharrows installed, but it still has no dedicated bike lane. West 10th Street was previously named Amos Street for Charles Christopher Amos, who is also the namesake of Charles Street and Christopher Street. The end of West 10th Street toward the Hudson River was once the home of Newgate Prison, New York City's first prison and the United States' second. 11th Street is in two parts. It is interrupted by the block containing Grace Church between Broadway and 4th Avenue. East 11th Street runs from 4th Avenue to Avenue C and runs past Webster Hall. West 11th Street runs from Broadway to West Street. 11th Street and 6th Avenue was the location of the old Grapevine Tavern from the 1700s to its demolition in the early 20th century. 12th Street is in two parts. Traffic on most of 12th Street runs from west to east. The first segment of West 12th Street runs southwest to northeast from West Street to Greenwich Street, then turns straight west to east. At 5th Avenue, West 12th Street becomes East 12th Street and ends at Avenue C. One block of 12th Street is for pedestrians only and resumes at Sold Place, which runs from north to south toward 10th Street as a continuation of the flow of traffic from East 12th Street, which runs east to west from Avenue D to Sold Place. Additionally, Little West 12th Street runs parallel to West 13th Street from West Street to the northeast corner of 9th Avenue and Gansevoort Street. 13th Street is in three parts. The first runs from Avenue C to Avenue D, the second starts at a dead end just before Avenue B and runs to Greenwich Avenue, and the third part is from 8th Avenue to 10th Avenue. Lengths of 10th to 13th Streets. 14th Street. 14th Street is a main numbered street in Manhattan. It begins at Avenue C and ends at West Street. Its length is 3.4 km, 2.1 mi. It has 6 subway stations. 1st Avenue L train, 3rd Avenue L train, 14th Street Union Square 4, 5, 6, L, and Q, R, and W trains, 14th Street/6th Avenue 1, 2, 3, F and L and M trains, 14th Street 8th Avenue A, C, E, and L trains from Avenue or Avenue C to West Street. There is service in 14A/D bus. 15th Street. Traffic on 15th Street moves from east to west. The street formerly started at the FDR Drive, but most of the street between the Drive and Avenue C was permanently closed, as was the 15th Street exit from the Drive after the September 11 attacks, due to the presence of the Con Edison East River generating station there. Only Con Edison personnel have access to the closed portion. The street is then interrupted by Stuyvesant Town from Avenue C to 1st Avenue. It then continues to Union Square East Park Avenue South, where it is interrupted by Union Square. It picks up again at Union Square West and continues unimpeded to 11th Avenue at the Hudson River. Sites along 15th Street include the southern border of Stuyvesant Square, the landmarked Friends Meeting House and Seminary at Rutherford Place, Irving Plaza at Irving Place, the Darrell Roth Theater in the landmarked Union Square Savings Bank Building, across the street from the Zeckendorf Towers at Union Square East, the Google Building between 8th and 9th Avenue. 15th Street is 1.9 mi, 3 km in length. 16th Street. Traffic on 16th Street moves from west to east. It starts at 11th Avenue at the Hudson River and runs until it is interrupted at Union Square West Broadway by Union Square. It picks up again on the other side of the park at Union Square East Park Avenue South, but is shortly stopped again by Stuyvesant Square from between 2nd and 3rd Avenues Rutherford Place to between 1st and 2nd Avenues Pullman Place. At 1st Avenue, it is interrupted by Stuyvesant Town and starts up again at Avenue C. It then dead ends between that avenue and the FDR Drive. Sites on 16th Street include the High Line near 10th Avenue, Chelsea Market between 9th and 10th Avenues, the Google Building between 8th and 9th Avenues, the row houses at 5, 7, 9, 17, 19, 21, and 23 West 16th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues, the Bank of the Metropolis at 16th Street is 1.8 mi 2.9 km long. 17th to 19th Streets. 17th, 18th, and 19th Streets start at 1st Avenue and finish at 11th Avenue. On 17th Street 40.735,532 deg and 73.986,575 deg W/40.735,532 minus 73.986,575. Traffic runs one way. It forms the northern borders of both Union Square between Broadway and Park Avenue South and Stuyvesant Square. Composer Antonin Dvorak's New York home was located at 327 East 17th Street, near Pullman Place. The house was raised by Beth Israel Medical Center after it received approval of a 1991 application to demolish the house and replace it with an AIDS hospice. Time magazine was started at 141 East 17th Street. 18th Street has a local subway station at the crossing with 7th Avenue, served by the 1 and the 2 at late nights on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line. There used to be an 18th Street station on the IRT Lexington Avenue line at the crossing with Park Avenue South. This street is home to the IAC building, designed by Frank Gehry. On the part of 19th Street between 10th and 11th Avenues, the travel direction is different. Lengths of streets: 20th to 22nd Streets. 20th Street starts at Avenue C, and 21st and 22nd Streets begin at 1st Avenue. They all end at 11th Avenue. Travel on the last block of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd Streets between 10th and 11th Avenues is in the opposite direction than it is on the rest of the respective street. 20th Street is very wide from the Avenue C to 1st Avenue. Along the southern perimeter of Gramercy Park, between Gramercy Park East and Gramercy Park West, 20th Street is known as Gramercy Park South. Between 2nd and 3rd Avenues, 21st Street is alternatively known as Police Officer Anthony Sanchez Way. Along the northern perimeter of Gramercy Park, between Gramercy Park East and Gramercy Park West, 21st Street is known as Gramercy Park North. Lengths of streets: 23rd Street. 23rd Street is another main numbered street in Manhattan. It begins at Avenue C/FDR Drive and ends at 11th Avenue. Its length is 3.1 km/1.9 m. It has two-way travel. On 23rd Street, there are 5 local subway stations. 23rd Street at the crossing with Park Avenue South 4, 6, and trains on the IRT Lexington Avenue line. 23rd Street at the crossing with 5th Avenue and QR&W trains on the BMT Broadway line. 23rd Street at the crossing with 6th Avenue F. 23rd Street at the crossing with 7th Avenue 1 and 2 trains on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line. 23rd Street at the crossing with 8th Avenue AC and E trains on the I&D 8th Avenue line. Additionally, there is the M23 Select bus service running through the length of 23rd Street. 24th to 26th Streets. 24th Street is in 2 parts. 24th Street starts at 1st Avenue and it ends at Madison Avenue because of Madison Square Park. 25th Street, which is in 3 parts, starts at FDR Drive, is a pedestrian plaza between 3rd Avenue and Lexington Avenue, and ends at Madison. Then, West 24th and 25th Streets continue from 5th Avenue to 11th Avenue 25th or 12th Avenue 24th. 26th Street is all in one part, and after reaching FDR Drive bends and runs parallel to FDR Drive up to 30th Street. 27th Street 27th Street is a one-way street that runs from 2nd Avenue to the West Side Highway with an interruption between 8th Avenue and 10th Avenue. It is most noted for its strip between 10th and 11th Avenues, known as Club Road, because it features numerous nightclubs and lounges. Some of the most notable venues are Bungalow 8, Marquee, Susie 1, Cane, and Pink Elephant. Since 2011, starting at 530 W 27th and continuing down almost the entire rest of the block, the former warehouse spaces of clubs Twilo, Guest House, Home, Bed, and more have been repurposed by British immersive theater group Punchdrunk as the McKittrick Hotel, the site of their theatrical experience Sleep No More. Heading east, 27th Street passes through Chelsea Park between 10th and 9th Avenues, with the Fashion Institute of Technology FIT on the corner of 8th. On Madison Avenue between 26th and 27th Streets, on the site of the old Madison Square Garden, is the New York Life Building, built in 1928 and designed by Cass Gilbert, with a square tower topped by a striking gilded pyramid. 27th Street passes one block north of Madison Square Park and culminates at Bellevue Hospital on 1st Avenue. Lengths of streets. 28th Street. There are 3 local subway stations on 28th Street, 28th Street 4, 6, and trains on the IRT Lexington Avenue line at Park Avenue South. 28th Street NR and W trains the BMT Broadway line at Broadway. 28th Street 1 and 2 trains on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line at 7th Avenue also. The former 28th Street station on path at 6th Avenue. 31st and 32nd Streets. 31st Street begins on the west side at the West Side Yard, while 32nd Street, which includes a segment officially known as Korea Way between 5th Avenue and Broadway in Manhattan's Koreatown, begins at the entrance to Penn Station and Madison Square Garden. On the east side, both streets end at 2nd Avenue at Kips Bay Towers and NYU Medical Center, which occupy the area between 30th and 34th Streets. The Catholic Church of St. Francis of Assisi is situated at 135-139 West 31st Street. At 210 West is the Capuchin Monastery of St. John the Baptist, part of St. John the Baptist Church on 30th Street. At the corner of Broadway and West 31st Street is the Grand Hotel. The former Hotel Pierrepont was located at 43 West 32nd Street. The Continental NYC Tower is at the corner of 6th Avenue and 32nd Street. 29 East 32nd Street was the location of the first building owned by the Grolier Club between 1890 and 1917. 33rd Street. 33rd Street runs uninterrupted from 1st Avenue to 7th Avenue, where it turns into a pedestrian road for a quarter of a block and turns back into a street. Then it runs the rest of the way to 12th Avenue. It runs on the north side of Hudson Yards and the south side of the Empire State Building. 34th Street. 35th Street. 35th Street runs from FDR Drive to 11th Avenue. Notable locations include East River Ferry, Laptop MD Headquarters, Mercy College Manhattan Campus, and Jacob K. Javits Convention Center. 36th to 39th Street. 36th Street runs from FDR Drive to 11th Avenue. It runs on the south side of the Queens Midtown Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit and over the Lincoln Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit. Notable locations on 36th Street are the American Copper Buildings, Sniffen Court, the Morgan Library and Museum, Gotham Hall, and the Javits Center. 37th Street runs from FDR Drive to 11th Avenue. It runs on the north side of the Queens Midtown Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit and over the Lincoln Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit. Notable locations on 37th Street are the Corinthian, Morgan Library and Museum, Gotham Hall, and the Javits Center. 38th Street runs from FDR Drive to 11th Avenue. It runs on the south side of the Lincoln Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit. Notable locations on 38th Street are the Corinthian, the Townhouse Hotel, 425 Fifth Avenue, and the Javits Center. 39th Street runs from First Avenue to 11th Avenue. It runs over the Lincoln Tunnel's Manhattan entrance/exit. A notable location on 39th Street is the Astros Dog Run. 40th to 57th Streets. 58th Street. A section of East 58th Street fortied 4540.3 and 73-5756.9 W between Lexington and 2nd Avenues is known as Designers Way and features a number of architects and designers of N.D. building, urban archaeology, foundry lighting, Gallery Vanden Acker, the Brass Center, Holly Hunt, Poggenpole, the N.D. Italia. 59th Street. 61st Street. The Mount Vernon Hotel Museum, one of only 8 surviving Premises 1,800 buildings in Manhattan, is located at 421 East 61st Street. The Pier, a luxury hotel opened in 1930, is at 2 East 61st Street, at the intersection with 5th Avenue. The Gateway School, an independent school for children aged 5 to 14 with learning disabilities, is located at 211 West 61st Street. The Consulate General of Russia in New York City was opened at 79 East 61st Street in 1933 and closed in 1948. 66th Street, 72nd Street, 73rd Street, 74th Street, 79th Street, 80th Street. As with all of Manhattan's numbered streets from 60th to 109th Street, 80th Street is divided by Central Park into eastern and western sections. Traffic on 80th Street, on both sides of the park, runs west to east. West 80th Street begins at Riverside Drive on the Upper West Side, then passes West End Avenue, Broadway, and Amsterdam Avenue, then stops at Columbus Avenue when it reaches the grounds on the American Museum of Natural History. Significant buildings on West 80th Street include those in the Riverside Drive, West 80th, 81st Street Historic District, on both sides of the street's block between Riverside Drive and West End Avenue, such as the Gothas row houses at 307-317 West 80th Street designed by Charles H. Israels and those at 309. True also designed the vaguely Georgian 328 West 80th Street on the same block, which also contains George F. Pelham Roman II's 411 West End Avenue, an Art Deco apartment building. East 80th Street begins at 5th Avenue on the Upper East Side and continues past Madison, Park, Lexington, and 3rd, where it enters the section of the Upper East Side called Yorkville. It then continues past 2nd, 1st, York, and East End Avenues before dead ending at the FDR Drive. Significant buildings on East 80th Street include the American Irish Historical Society at 991 Fifth Avenue, the houses of Franklin and Edna Woolworth and her 2 sisters at 2, 4, and 6 East 80th Street, built by F. W. Woolworth and designed by C. P. H. Gilbert. The postmodern 45 East 80th. Also on East 80th Street are a number of houses between Park and Lexington, collectively referred to as the East 80th Street houses, which are listed as such on the National Register of Historic Places, although they are separately designated as landmarks by the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission. The Louis Spencer and Emily Coster Maurice House at 116 E. At 1157 Lexington Avenue is the 1932 Unitarian Church of All Souls, designed by Robert Upjohn. In Yorktown, the c. 1890 Hungarian Baptist Church is located at 225 East 80th, between 2nd and 3rd Avenues and the City University of New York Administration Building, which was originally the Welfare Island Dispensary, and then the New York City Board of Higher Education, is at 535 East 80th Street at East End Avenue, built in 1985th Street, 86th Street, 89th Street, 90th Street. 90th Street is split into two segments. The first segment, West 90th Street, begins at Riverside Drive and ends at Central Park West or West Drive, when it is open in Central Park on the Upper West Side. The second segment of East 90th Street begins at East Drive at Engineers Gate of Central Park. When East Drive is closed, East 90th Street begins at 5th Avenue on the Upper East Side and curves to the right at the FDR Drive, becoming East End Avenue. Our Lady of Good Counsel Church is located on East 90th Street between 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue, across the street from Ruppert Towers, 1601 and 1619 3rd Avenue and Rucker Park. Asphalt Green, which is located on East 90th Street between York Avenue and East End Avenue. 93rd Street, 96th Street, 97th Street. 97th Street is the site of the Park Avenue Tunnel and the northernmost transverse of Central Park. Metropolitan Hospital Center is located at 1st Avenue, and the Islamic Cultural Center of New York, the oldest mosque in New York City, is located at 3rd Avenue. The street hosts a year-round farmers market Fridays mornings between Columbus Avenue and Amsterdam Avenue. 110th Street, 112th Street. 112th Street starts in Morningside Heights and runs from Riverside Drive to Amsterdam Avenue, where it meets the steps of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. The street resumes at the eastern edge of Morningside Park and extends through Harlem before ending at 1st Avenue adjacent to Thomas Jefferson Park in East Harlem. Notable locations include the exterior of Tom's Restaurant, located at the corner of 112th Street and Broadway in Morningside Heights, was routinely used for transitions in the popular 1990s sitcom Seinfeld. The building, which is owned by Columbia University, is also called Armstrong Hall. Its upper floors house NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, the Center for Climate Systems Research, and offices for the Columbia Business School Executive Education Program. Philosopher John Dewey also lived there. The axis of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine is aligned with 112th. The street is interrupted by the cathedral's west front at Amsterdam Avenue, and the iconic east end of the cathedral looms over the street's path, where it continues through central Harlem at a lower elevation, east of Morningside Park. A monument to Samuel J. Tilden, the 25th New York governor and Democratic presidential candidate in 1876, stands at the foot of 112th Street along Riverside Drive. 114th Street. 114th Street marks the southern boundary of Columbia University's Morningside Heights campus and is the location of Butler Library, which is the university's largest. Above 114th Street, between Amsterdam Avenue and Morningside Drive, there is a private indoor pedestrian bridge connecting two buildings on the campus of Mount Sinai Morningside. 116th Street. 120th Street. 120th Street 40.8076 deg and 73.9549 deg W/40.8076 minus 73.9005 numbers is the neighborhoods of Morningside Heights, Harlem, Spanish Harlem. It begins on Riverside Drive at the Interchurch Center. It then runs east between the campuses of Barnard College and the Union Theological Seminary, then crosses Broadway and runs between the campuses of Columbia University and Teachers College. The street is interrupted by Morningside Park. It then continues east, eventually running along the southern edge of Marcus Garvey Park, passing by 58 West, the former residence of Maya Angelou. It then continues through Spanish Harlem. When it crosses Pleasant Avenue, it becomes a two-way street and continues nearly to the East River, where, for automobiles, it turns north and becomes Palladino Avenue, and for pedestrians continues as a bridge across FDR Drive. 122nd Street, 125th Street, La Salle Street, La Salle Street 40.813 deg and 73.9575 deg W/40.813 minus 73.9575 is a street in West Harlem that runs just 2 blocks between Amsterdam Avenue and Claremont Avenue. West of Convent Avenue, 125th Street was rerouted onto the old Manhattan Avenue. The original 125th Street west of Convent Avenue was swallowed up to make the superblocks where the low-income housing projects now exist. La Salle Street is the only vestige of the original routing. 127th Street, Public School 154 Harriet Tubman and Public School 157, 130th Street, 132nd Street, 132nd Street 40.814,583 deg and 73.947,944 deg W/40.814,583 minus 73.947,944 runs east-west above Central. The main portion of 132nd Street runs eastbound from Frederick Douglass Boulevard. After an interruption from St. Nicholas Park and City College, there is another small stretch of West 132nd Street between Broadway and 12th Avenue. The 132nd Street Community Garden is located on 132nd Street between Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard and Malcolm X Boulevard. In 1997, the lot received a garden makeover. The borough president's office funded the installation of a $100,000 water distribution system that keeps the wide variety of trees green. The garden also holds a goldfish pond and several benches. The spirit of the neighborhood lives in gardens like this one, planted and tended by local residents. The Manhattanville Bus Depot, formerly known as the 132nd Street Bus Depot, is located on West 132nd and 133rd Street between Broadway and Riverside Drive. 133rd Street, 135th Street, 2 subway stations, 135th Street on the I and 8th Avenue Line A, B, and C trains at St. Nicholas Avenue, 135th Street on the IRT Lenox Avenue Line 2 and 3 trains at Lenox Avenue, 137th Street, 1 local subway station, 137th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue Line 1 train at Broadway, 145th Street, 148th Street, 1 subway terminal, 148th Street on the IRT Lenox Avenue Line 3 train at Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, 155th Street. 155th Street is a major crosstown street considered to form the boundary between Harlem and Washington Heights. It is the northernmost of the 155 crosstown streets mapped out in the Commissioner's Plan of 1811 that established the numbered street grid in Manhattan. 155th Street starts on the west side at Riverside Drive, crossing Broadway, Amsterdam Avenue, and St. Nicholas Avenue. At St. Nicholas Place, the terrain drops off steeply, and 155th Street is carried on a 1,600-foot 490 long viaduct, a city landmark constructed in 1893, that slopes down towards the Harlem River, continuing onto the Macombs Dam Bridge, crossing over but not intersecting with the Harlem River Drive. A separate Unconnected section of 155th Street runs under the viaduct, connecting Bradhurst Avenue and the Harlem River Drive. The New York City Subway serves 155th Street on the I and 8th Avenue and Concourse lines. Points of interest include Highbridge Park, situated on the banks of the Harlem River near the northernmost tip of Manhattan, between 155th Street and Dickman Street. Polo Grounds, the final incarnation of the famed stadium, was located at was then 8th Avenue from 1911 to 1963. Over its life, it was home of the New York Giants 1911-1957, New York Yankees 1913-1922, and New York Mets 1962-1963 baseball franchises, and the New York Giants 1925-1955, and New York Jets 1960-1963 football teams. Rucker Park, located at Frederick Douglass Boulevard, Rucker Park is one of the premier havens of streetball, and its summer league has been the launching point for many NBA players. Hispanic Society of America, Museum of Spanish, Portuguese, and Latin American art and artifacts, as well as a rare books and manuscripts and research library located at Audubon Terrace. Trinity Church Cemetery and Mausoleum on the south side of 155th between Broadway and Riverside Drive. 157th Street. One local subway station. 157th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue Line 1 train at Broadway. 163rd Street. One local subway station. 163rd Street on the I and 8th Avenue line. 168th Street. A station complex with platforms for 2 subway lines. 168th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue Line 1 train at Broadway. 168th Street on the I and 8th Avenue line. 175th Street. One local subway station. 175th Street on the I and 8th Avenue line, a train at Fort Washington Avenue. 181st Street. 181st Street, Fortite 5050 and 73-5544 W is a major thoroughfare running through the Washington Heights neighborhood. It runs from the Washington Bridge in the east to the Henry Hudson Parkway in the west, near the George Washington Bridge and the Hudson River. The west end is called Plaza Lafayette. West of Fort Washington Avenue, 181st Street is largely residential, bordering Hudson Heights, and having a few shops to serve the local residents. East of Fort Washington Avenue, the street becomes increasingly commercial, becoming dominated entirely by retail stores where the street reaches Broadway and continues as such until reaching the Harlem River. It is the area's major shopping district. 181st Street is served by 2 New York City subway lines. There is a 181st Street station at Fort Washington Avenue on the I and 8th Avenue line, a train, and a 181st Street station at St. Nicholas Avenue on the IRT Broadway 7. The stations are about 500 meters 550 YD from each other and are not connected. The George Washington Bridge bus terminal is a couple of blocks south on Fort Washington Avenue. 181st Street is also the last south/west exit in New York on the Trans-Manhattan Expressway IMNS 95, just before crossing the George Washington Bridge to New Jersey. 187th Street. 187th Street crosses Washington Heights, running from Laurel Hill Terrace in the east to Chittenden Avenue in the west near the George Washington Bridge and overlooking the West Side Highway and the Hudson River. The street is interrupted by a long set of stairs between Overlook Terrace in the Broadway Valley and Fort Washington Avenue. West of the stairs is a 1-block shopping street serving the Hudson Heights neighborhood. 187th Street intersects with, from east to west, Laurel Hill Terrace, Amsterdam Avenue, Audubon Avenue, St. Nicholas Avenue, Wadsworth Avenue, Broadway, Bennett Avenue, Overlook Terrace, Fort Washington Avenue, Pinehurst Avenue. The many institutions on 187th Street include Mount Sinai Jewish Center, the Dombrov SH Bible, and the Uptown campus of Yeshiva University. The local public elementary and middle school PS/MS 187 is located on Cabrini Boulevard, just north of 187th Street. 190th Street. One local subway station. 190th Street on the I&D 8th Avenue line, a train at Fort Washington Avenue. 191st Street. One local subway station. 191st Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line, one train at St. Nicholas Avenue. 194th to 200th Streets. Manhattan has no streets numbered 194th, 195th, 197th, 198th, 199th, or 200th. The Dickman Street station was formerly called Dickman Street 200th Street, but there has never been a street in Manhattan with that number. 207th Street. Two local subway stations. 207th Street Terminal on the I&D 8th Avenue line, a train at Broadway. 207th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line, one train at 10th Avenue. 208th to 210th Streets. While 208th Street exists as a small driveway and parking lot located just south of the 207th Street yard, Manhattan has no streets numbered 209th or 210th. 215th Street. One local subway station. 215th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line, one train at 10th Avenue. 221st to 224th Streets. Manhattan has no streets numbered 221st, 222nd, 225th Street. One local subway station. Marble Hill 225th Street on the IRT Broadway 7th Avenue line, one train at Broadway. 226th Street. Despite having streets numbered 225th, 227th, and 228th in the Marble Hill neighborhood, Manhattan has no street numbered 226. 228th Street. 228th Street, located in the Marble Hill neighborhood, is the highest numbered street in Manhattan. The street numbers continue in the Bronx.